There's always a degree of politics in the governance of WHO because it is a member state-based institution. And so WHO is made up of, on the one hand, its secretariat, which is its leadership institutionally, it's the personnel and staff who work for WHO. But then the other part of what makes up the WHO are the member states of WHO. They design and govern and oversee and fund the institution. And so anytime you have a large group of member states who need to convene and talk about policy matters and set priorities, that gets inherently political to some extent. Um, I think what's really unusual about the U.S. withdrawal is that typically countries see the WHO as a forum in which they engage, and um, rather than kind of blaming the WHO for their own failings. And I think that's what's clearly happening in the US. The US was very happy with WHO during the period that they're now complaining about. And we're praising Trump and Secretary Azar were praising WHO through January and February, and for that matter, we're praising China. Um, it was only later when their own failure to prepare began to catch up with them in the US that they turned on the WHO. You're not seeing that from other countries. And I think that is why, that's what's driving the US decision. It's a desire to find a scapegoat for some of the failings in the US response. But really, when you're blaming WHO, at the end of the day, you're still blaming yourself. And this was one of the conclusions that we came to in the last administration following the Ebola outbreak was, yes, WHO institutionally had performed poorly on that Ebola outbreak, but also that poor performance was a direct reflection of how we and other member states had encouraged WHO to prioritize over the years what we had encouraged them to emphasize on, which had not traditionally been emergency response, what we had chosen to finance, which was not traditionally emergency response. And so you can't ever separate WHO's performance from the governance and the oversight and the priorities of WHO's member states. And so, when a member state is blaming WHO, ultimately the finger is at least partly pointing back at them as well. And I think that's one of the things that's so ironic here in the U.S. withdrawal.